You intimidated by installing a chassis on your Arrma 8S car? Well, have no fear. We have a little tip today. First, you're going to take a piece of cardboard and you're going to take your new chassis, put the new chassis over the cardboard. You're just going to make a simple outline. I use the pen and then I use a marker for each one of the holes. You're going to take a razor blade or scissors and cut out the shape of the chassis, and then you're going to take a drill. I just literally use the Phillips head, just like that. And then I just drilled where the holes are. And it's going to line up good enough that you're going to be able to flip this truck over and then take out each bolt and then put it in the corresponding spot. Now, when you have the truck flipped upside down, obviously the body is going to be off. I'm going to take 2 pillows. This is how I do all my chassis, and it helps a lot. If you have a better idea than this, please drop them in the comments below and I will pin the comment. We're going to flip it upside down on 2 pillows that we don't really care about. And then we're just going to take each bolt out, put it in the corresponding spot. Everything should be held together. We're going to put the new chassis on, which I actually have this backwards. Doesn't really matter right now. We're just going to put the new chassis on, and then you just take each bolt out and get it in like that. The only thing is around the motor, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, and then I think 4, 5 that are for sure going to be Loctited on there. Maybe with red, maybe with blue. Honestly, with Arrma and their quality control, you never really know. Sometimes you're lucky if you even have Loctite on there. If the bolts are really hard to get off, hit it with a butane torch. Try to flip it upside down and heat them up. So I guess that's a pro tip right away, is have the truck upside down. I mean, I even literally just use a lighter sometimes and I hold the flame to it for like 10-15 seconds. It's more than enough to heat up that bolt, get into the threads, break up that Loctite, and then it should come loose really easily. You don't have to worry about stripping anything out. You can reuse it again. Also, if something had Loctite on it, you need to put Loctite back on it. A lot of people will say you need to use red. That's okay. I've used blue and gotten away with it. If you're gonna use red, just keep in mind next time that you definitely need to use some heat to break up that red Loctite. So we're gonna get into it. This is gonna be a little bit of a time lapse now, and you're just gonna see with the time lapse how easy this is with the cardboard method. My girlfriend's gonna be helping me, and so yeah, you're gonna see her. We're just gonna get this done, and then you'll see the Just Bash It 7075 aluminum chassis on the Kraton 8S afterwards. If you've been following along with my channel or not, fun fact, I took this thing on medium jumps, and the 3rd jump bowed the chassis. Really hard to tell on camera, something you can only see in person. So one of the weak spots with the Arrma 8S line is the chassis are very weak. Now the Outcast, I ran a stock chassis on the Outcast for a while and it never bent, but I also wasn't sending it as big, and it's a shorter wheelbase. So we're gonna have our friend come right here, math lady, and geometry and everything involved, you know. So it's like when you have a longer twig and you try to snap it over your leg, when you have a shorter twig and you try to snap it over your leg, which one's harder? So let's get into it. Hope you guys enjoyed our cute little time lapse that we just did. So the front of the car is going to have the bill a little bend up. Just looking at it, the wings right there, the front's right there, just confirming. So I didn't have this issue with my Outcast when I did the chassis swap because my Outcast chassis wasn't bent. I think because my chassis bowed a little bit, getting the front and rear bumper off, I didn't need to take them fully off. but it's really easy. You just take a 2.5 hex, go right in the front right here. You're gonna unscrew this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can take those off, and then we should just be able to lift the chassis with wiggling it a little bit. All right, so once you get the 4 bolts removed, I know where they go, so I'm just gonna put them kind of wherever. You kind of just wiggle that off. I'm just gonna eyeball it while we're here. See if anything's obviously bent or needs to be repaired now or later. Looks like we're good. Also, when you're taking these off, just gently wiggle them off. If you take them off rapidly, the hinge pins braces can actually just come out. The chassis should just come off. We got the pillows, kind of everything in place. I'm gonna smush it down a little bit. And that chassis, just like that, should come off. You can tell it's bowed.
Yeah.
I don't know how well you can see this on camera, but she's got a nice bow to it. Looks like a Viking ship or a big canoe or something. All right, so now we have the gorgeously machined one-piece T651 traded 7075 aircraft aluminum, and it is a direct drop-in. It's not like the M2C kit where you need to have all these chassis braces and reinforcement. This is machined right into it. You're gonna put it on. I say do the front and the rear first, rear and the front, either or, and then like the motor, the trans, the chassis brace, under the servo mount. Like you're gonna kind of have to reach under there and lift up to get those things in place. The battery trays and the side guards I like to do last. You're also gonna make sure that your gaskets are in place, because they do kind of get out of place in this process. Now we're going to line everything up. I'm gonna get this rear in place first. So you're gonna have like a square little hole right here. I'll zoom in on the camera. That is gonna go, you'll see the block. It's gonna be hard for me to show you on camera. When you're doing this job with me though, you're gonna see it. So you're gonna line everything up with the holes, and then you kind of lift, tuck, push gently, carefully, all that jazz. This is when you put the bumper back on. So I'm gonna wiggle that on. I'm gonna do the same with the front, which this is kind of a tricky part. You kind of have to like literally shoehorn it on there. It literally feels like, I mean, I don't know who uses a shoehorn nowadays, but whoever has used a shoehorn in their life, that's what it's gonna feel like. So we're gonna take those same bolts, put them back in first. All right, so I'm gonna show you this. This cardboard trick, lifesaver, all right? So there was one bolt that I missed. I know exactly where it goes. Not sure what happened there, but everything else is exactly in place. When I did my outcast, I actually did have a spare chassis, and then I had my Just Batshit 6061 chassis. So I actually just used that spare chassis, and that's what gave me the idea for this. Because a lot of times when you buy a chassis, you don't have a spare lying around. But if you want to make this job super easy, super organized, piece of cardboard. So first thing I like to do is get the 4 bolts for the bulkhead, the 4mm heads in. Now the plastic bulkheads on the Arrma, don't over tighten them because the threads will strip out. So if it's not going in the right way, you want to just take it out, thread it back in, try to be, vertical to the hole. This, I can feel it's going in really good. It's kind of squeezing up right now. I don't want that to be like the one clamping force. So think about like when you're putting a 5-lug tire on, you know, you do the star pattern. And if you want to get real bougie about it, you get it tight, 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 tight. Tighten it down, tighten it down, tighten it down, tighten it down, tighten it down. So that's kind of the same thought process I have here. I'm getting it snugged down, because each time that I get one snugged down, it's going to be squeezing that bulkhead closer to the chassis. And that's exactly what we want for a good, clean install with no future problems. So I got the last one pretty snug, or the third to the last one, second to the last one, whatever. So this last one, we can kind of get a little cranky with it. That feels pretty good. We're just going to go back, get that down, nice and right, nice and tight. There's 2 more right behind it. We're just going to get that into, forgot what part that holds in. Oh, it's like the C block for the hinge pin. So we're going to do that too. Getting the motor, the transmission, the battery trays, the weird chassis thing in the back, getting those to settle is going to be the hardest part. So I like to work outward in when I'm doing a chassis swap, because it just makes taking one hand and putting it in so much easier, because nothing else is kind of sliding around and flopping around. So now we're going to get through to the front, and then we will check back in when we have the hard part of getting the motor and the transmission just mounted back up. So for the rest of this video, you're just going to take the corresponding bolts, and with the car upside down, just take it out, put it in. You will have to, for the motor and the trans, just kind of hold them up, get them in place. If you're having difficulties, we actually kind of had a little bit of difficulties. I think it was because the original chassis was bowed a little bit. So if you have a bowed chassis or a totally screwed up chassis, if you take the braces out, some of them out, you can kind of wiggle and jiggle that motor into place, get that in there, and then before you put everything back in, just put the pins in the brace holders, whatever these are called. And then, yeah, get it all back in there. This was the biggest tip I think I have to offer the RC game, the cardboard chassis. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like this how-to video, sorry, but I hate doing them. So I'm probably not going to do any more. But here it is, the work of art, the Just Bash It RC chassis. Great looking piece. Pretty easy install using the cardboard method. It's also really easy when you have a girlfriend that helps you too. So if you like this video, thumbs up, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Until next time, guys, Midwestern RC out.